why should people start considering meal prepping as a strategy to implement in order to help their, overall, I guess, support their overall goals and their health as well?
Hmm. Well, I'm going to go back to kind of what Heather said in the sense that, it's this mindset shift in terms of adding something in and not feeling like you're taking something away. So back to, nourishing yourself in the sense that you can then, well, I'm going to talk about meal prep in a sec, but if you can see that you're nourishing yourself and giving to yourself, it's going to feed your soul, and that, I think, I'm going to just touch on this whole, how do you implement the four pillars thing is are you doing something that you love? And if you are doing something that you love, then you're going to have the energy in order to implement all these other things that may feel difficult at the beginning. But that small shift in mindset being I'm nourishing myself, I am doing this for what is going to literally feed me in the future, body, mind, soul, all of it is going to feed you in the future. So I think, just kind of taking that step and approach to, I'm going to add stuff in and not feel depleted. I'm not taking anything away from myself. I'm literally giving myself presence for the future. And that's, if we build on the future, I like to say, the seeds we plant today are going to feed you extensively into the future, because that's really what it is, whether we're talking about planting or whether we're talking about food or goals or exercise or anything. So meal prep, obviously, I ran a meal prep business and, I was consulting for a really long time, and I didn't see that my clients were making the changes that they needed. And that was before I had a 4-pillar approach, of course. But I think meal prepping, goes back to what I said before in terms of, connecting back with your food, getting your digestion back in place, understanding what you're eating too, when we grab that processed food, there could be 50 ingredients in it, an artificial flavor can have up to 100 ingredients in it. And again, in Europe, it's a little bit different than North America, but when you meal prep, you can see what you're putting into your body and you can plan accordingly. So whether you're an individual who is just, one of us folks who doesn't exercise all the time, you can add these vegetables in, you can know that you're getting the nutrients that you need. You can know that you're setting yourself up for success. It's just as important or more important for an athlete to be able to say, okay, I'm getting the macronutrients that I need, plus all the other things in order to make sure that my systems are working optimally for me. But I think it's about visualizing what you're putting into your body too. And what you're eating, where it comes from, all of the kind of importance of what you have here in the fridge, maybe.
What are some of your best tips for meal prepping?
Well, I'm a
batch cooking.
Yeah, I was going to say batch cooking, finding recipes that you like, maybe that are a play on things that you like to eat out. Like maybe you really like Chinese food. Well, find a Chinese recipe, like a chow mein recipe or some kind of recipe that you can kind of play on. There's so many recipes out there.
I guess one thing you've taught me is start with the recipe and then build your shopping list based on that. So then you just buy the things that you need to, make the meals, and that already just simplifies it. Because if you're not like her, which is she can just make something out of nothing in the kitchen, and most people are not like that. So whatever you have in the house in that situation, you can make something delicious out of it. But for most people that don't have that creative brain around food, having the meals in mind first and then shopping for those meals, I guess, simplifies the process.
Well, and that's kind of where I started, I would teach cooking classes, we would batch cook, 21 different meals. Here's all the food, this is the recipe, let's follow it and then see. And what people don't actually realize is that by batch cooking at the beginning of the week, you're saving numerous hours, not just on cooking, but on dishes and things like that. Because instead of after every single meal, you have dishes to do, you don't have those things anymore. And you end up spending less money. People think, oh, well, if I go to the grocery store and I don't buy processed food, it's going to be more expensive. But what happens is people tend to use less, throw out less. You know, I know, Lisa, we've talked about sometimes when you buy these greens and they just sit in the fridge and then you don't use them up at the end of the week, then, you know, you're just throwing that food away. I think it's like over 1 billion pounds of food are thrown out each year, you know, in the US alone. And so we have this concept that we have to continuously keep growing more food and we're running out of food, but it's, you know, how do we use the food that we actually have to our advantage? And like you said, no, don't go hungry. Don't go shopping hungry. Don't do that. He does that.
I might be a professional at this.
Yeah. And then I guess the last tip I have before I give it over to Lisa and Heather is, you know, you might think you're out of food, but can you get creative? You know, there's these apps now where you can go on and put the 5 ingredients that you have in your cupboard and it gives you a recipe to follow. And I'm like that. I can look in the cupboard and I can see all the things that I have and I can turn it into something. And like Sean said, not everybody is like that, but there are apps now that do this for you, which is really handy. I did a video once on this where I thought we had to go shopping. So I opened up the fridge, I opened up the freezer, I opened up the cupboards, I looked in our pantry, like what do we still have? Can we make a meal out of it? So I thought we had to go shopping. And I actually ended up making a meal plan for 3 more days after that. So I pulled, you know, all this food together out of nowhere, but it's just taking the time to put it all down on paper and thinking about it a little bit and putting things together. I mean, we all know like ground beef and pasta sauce go together. So if you have those, you tuck them away. Eggs and vegetables, tuck those away. And you can make a massive omelet or like you said, or a frittata or something that, you know, houses a lot of these things that we think we don't need or we are out of. Yeah.